Hello. People make decisions throughout our lives. Everything that happens is an amazing opportunity for us to develop and to become a better person, provided we decide what the next step is, how we act, or even how we react. Let's think about a very specific scenario for a moment. We realize that even though our decision is right, the world around us seems to be collapsing. Can you think of anything like this happening to you? How is it possible that something that feels so right can have a bad impact? I grew up in a family of 6 in a small town west of Peloponnese in Greece. 2 loving parents, 2 occasionally annoying siblings, myself and 1 crazy dog. My mom, whom I currently adore, taught me that I had to always be a well-behaved, polite girl, fully cooperative and always being absolutely conscious of social and family obligations that had to be delivered. And of course, to properly deliver them, even at my expense in regards to time, money, priorities, sleep, feelings. So, growing up, I felt like a robot. A robot that had to be ready to perform, a robot that had to put down my own desires and perception of how my life should be. I had to put everything low at my priority list. As a result, I found myself in pretty uncomfortable situations because I was incapable of making my mind up on several occasions or even properly articulating what I truly wanted. However, what really made me freeze inside is that when I had finally made a decision, I felt that I had to change it based on the reactions I got. So my approach to that was not taking a decision at all. I was allowing the others to decide for me. And as you can understand, it is pretty much painless to drag myself to that my big Greek fat wedding type family dinner. It is okay to go out with friends, even though I'm very, very tired, just because I promised them. It did not really do me bad, I think, returning to Greece after my LLM in Kenya was completed, because my mom told me that my special needs brother would need me in the future. Thus, I had to be in a place where I could run to him whenever required. Of course, no one knows what would have happened if I stayed in England. History is not made of ifs. The burden of not deciding what you want, the weight of deciding based on what others feel or want is enormous. It can break you down into little pieces. It can give you rashes and headaches and pain. Back in 1999, I clearly remember I was stuck between the life I wanted to live and the life my family expected me to live. I remember my body giving me literal signs of how much that internal conflict was hurting me. I remember writing in my calendar about politically correct life choices. And I was only 24. And my life went on like this for almost 10 years. Overall, it felt like I was in a car without any brakes going down a hill. And then one day, out of the blue, I read this poem by Constantinos Kavathi, Greek poet. He was born in 1863 in Egypt to Greek parents. He was so insightful and so modern for his time. For the title of that specific poem, he took 2 lines from Dante's Canto 3. Originally, the lines talk about someone who cowardly says no, but Kavathi, he wanted to talk about the person che fece il gran rifiuto, who made the grand refusal. To a few people, there comes a day when they must say the great yes or great no. It's obvious at once who has ready within himself that yes, and saying it, away he goes with his honor and belief. He who said no has no regrets. If asked again, he would repeat that no, but then he'll have to suffer for that no, the right one, a life in grief. This is a unique poem. The grand refusal, the grand acceptance to embrace your choice. Have you ever been in a situation where you had to make a big decision that would affect your whole life? How much did you think about the question per se? Putting the right words one next to the other and then ending the phrase with a question mark is of utmost importance. And if you're smart or like you're insightful and you ask the right question, then the first step is made. You should feel proud of yourself and celebrate for just a little moment, because then it is that exact moment where you have to decide yes or no to a compromise or a huge responsibility. Before I continue, I want to make sure you understand, you realize the significance of a bad question. Allow me to remind you, Greece's referendum on whether Greece should accept the proposed by EC, IMF and ECB bailout conditions, Britain's Brexit referendum, and Turkey's referendum on increasing the power of its president. Personally, before the Greek referendum, I had to take a couple of more major decisions in my life. Should I continue with an unfulfilling personal and professional life, with my heart and my mind on different spots? At that particular moment, that meant that I would have to get a divorce, deprive my 2-year-old daughter of her everyday contact with her dad, find a new job and a babysitter. At the same period, after a serious car accident that had literally left my husband not standing on his own feet and me with a painful breath, I had broken ribs. When people face a critical dilemma, some of them are willing to take that step and are eager to say yes. They are the ones who are ready and willing to live along the expectations of others. They are the ones that wholeheartedly sacrifice themselves to a superior good or cause, a purpose that is in accordance with their beliefs and internal needs. Such people are ready for the grand yes, and they choose to fulfill social, professional, or family expectations so that they are accepted and honored for their choice. And it is important to clarify that this acceptance of yes is not forced at all. This decision is in full alignment with their need to live a life balanced between their desires and society's expectations. I have several examples of people who accepted the challenge and dove into an obligation or a compromise. A dear friend of mine has worked hard his whole life and now is at the point where he no longer wants to work. And he can really afford it, by the way. Yet, having a position of responsibility with many employees relying on him, he embraces the burden of their lives, of their careers, and intentionally remains in his position because he's aware that when the next person comes, there will be many changes. And his care for those people are bigger than his need to finally get some peace of mind. And at this moment, he's okay with it deep in his heart. My mom has dedicated her life to my brother, who is a person with special powers, special needs. He breathes and lives through her. Anytime she spends away, he suffers. We tell her that this is not good for neither of them. We tell her that when she passes away, my brother will join her after a while from broken heart. And her response to this is, so much better for you. You will not be bothered with him. She has chosen to be everything to this lovely man who at his 42 still remains her little boy. People like my mom and my friend are personally greatly impacted by the consequences of their decisions, and they carry it around feeling that this is the only way to do it. On the other hand, people who say no also reach such decision very consciously. Every single time they are asked about it, every single time they face a dilemma, they will always say no. Yet, they will pay for this no for the rest of their lives, because their denial means that they want to create their own path. They do not want the compromise with demands of others. They choose to fall out with social or professional expectations. Have you ever said no? How strong, how empowered were you? Can you remember? Society, family, work, even though it is not their business, do not forgive those that are not aligned with the norm, whatever it is. And no is accompanied by a constant judgment for the person who dared to let this word out. And while no requires more courage and more emotional strength, I have to tell you, than a yes, the people who say it do not enjoy similar honor and respect. On the contrary, they live with the rejection and the criticism of the people around them just because they did not want to live as per the predefined perceptions. No matter that no big right for them and expressing their unique true identity, the others do not agree, and as such they banish that person. Ask about the moment I told you earlier. Kavathi said that the person who refuses does so because they believe that they are not fit for that particular project or responsibility, or that the project itself is not worthy of their effort. And then someone else succeeds for reasons that are not of interest here. And even though their no was right, this success and the gossiping, the suspicion, the criticism of the others make them suffer. For me, it is more than that. Every time we take a decision, there are consequences, to us personally, to others. When my mind and my heart are on the same spot, I feel determined and peaceful for my choice. Nevertheless, while saying yes can have consequences to us personally, saying no can also have devastating consequences to people who we care for. Think of a time you said no, and that no hurt people around you. Was it something family related? Did you choose to spend holidays without your spouse because you desperately needed some time off of everything? Was it about you quitting your job during a critical deal negotiation because you simply could not take that any more stress? Simone Biles quit the Olympics on the grounds of mental health pressures. Saying no to my unhappy marriage made my daughter very, very, very sad. In more than 7 years after the separation, now at almost 10, she's still wondering what happened. Why did I stop loving her dad? Why didn't I stay with him while he was recovering from the accident? Even though I still have this feeling of failure in me, even though I still have this feeling of guilt for not providing a home with both her parents in there, I had to explain to her that in life things change. There might be a moment we don't feel the same like we used to. At that very moment, we might want to compromise, or we might want to take a different road. Provided we take that decision very consciously and understand the consequences, then we should simply go for it. Saying no to a certain work culture made me look for a job with values I could relate to, in a time where things were financially uncertain in Greece and there were not many openings. I was prepared to even stay out of the market if required, or to change career with whatever impact it might have on my child's life and mine. The Greek referendum happened to us less than a year later, yet we were both eventually lucky. Saying no to my paranoid yet loving parents, who didn't want me to remain unhappily married nor get a divorce, made them keep their distances for some time. Okay, I mean, they live 260 kilometers away from me, but still I could not handle the negativity and the doom sent to me on every call I had with them. They could not handle my determination. At some point I had to ask them to express their distress for my future to their spouse or friends. I missed their presence in my life and I knew they were in pain, yet I didn't want anything from them. I would handle it because I knew I was right. I stood by that now. I stood by all my choices. This year, I celebrated the 7th anniversary of my second birthday, April 18th, the day of the car accident that was the beginning of my new start. I celebrated the 7th anniversary of my divorce. No divorce cake, no party involved. You see, my ex-husband is an amazing dad, and we finally have the relationship of our dreams. And I will surely celebrate the 7th anniversary of working for SAP. In our lives, there might be a time when we are required to take some big decisions, and it is not always the case that a domino of bad things will happen afterwards. It may not always be a case of huge grief, guilt, and relief. Think about your job responsibilities. Think about your commitments to your family. We all know that with every single decision, we eliminate thousands of other alternatives, and we do initiate a domino of impact to us and to others. There's no easy way here. If you're one of those people having ready within yourself that yes, you have my respect. The yes can be so tough on you, and occasionally you will tremble, but you will not fall. And if you are one of those people who suffer for that no, the right one, and life in grief, well, don't be scared. I can only share my story. I know that I made the right decision. I could not take that responsibility back then. I didn't have the strength nor the skills. And still, when looking around, I realized not only how this has affected people I care about, but now I'm absolutely certain that someone else is better than me on this. And do you know what I figured out? And this goes to all of us. People of conscious yes, people of conscious no. It is okay. It is okay to dedicate yourself to a cause no one forces you to and still tremble. It is okay to be less capable or with less desire for compromise or obligation and walk away. Ask the right question and then embrace your choice. Have your heart and your mind on the same spot. Be strong. I learned to live with my grief, with my guilt. I didn't cast it away. I held it close to my heart and tried to make a beautiful life of it. For me, at least, it is a huge relief, because eventually I could breathe again. Thank you so much.